Welcome, everybody, to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality, and so we're glad you're joining us. And in today's interview, I have Jessica Harp that is with us, and we're so excited to have Jessica here. Thank you for joining us,
here.
Jessica. Yes. Some of our audience might not know you, and I wanted you to take just a brief moment and kind of give us a little bit of your background and then maybe how we connected along the way.
Sure.
And then I kind of want to get into your recording and writing career and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. My background, I was born and raised here in Kansas City. I had about a 10-year period where I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, because my job was a country music recording artist. I was in a band called the Wreckers, and then I had some solo work after the Wreckers. So mostly have just been a singer-songwriter my entire life, and yeah, that's pretty much my background.
Very cool. So I remember I met your dad back in the 90s.
Yes.
Working out. Your dad, does he still work out? I bet he does, doesn't he?
He does not.
Oh, he doesn't?
he wants to get back to it, but he does not.
Well, he was very fit.
He was.
I remember.
He was.
And so we just met through working out, and we'd get to talking about everything under the sun. I mean,
Yes.
your dad is a fascinating guy, and he is well-read in so
Very.
many things. He's
Very smart.
He's a musician.
Yeah, he is.
Right?
He is. That's where
And
my
his
love of
favorite
music
band
started.
is
The Allman Brothers.
Right?
And I was named after the song Jessica.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I just enjoyed getting to know your dad, and then somewhere along the way, he brings a cassette tape to me.
Remember those?
Yeah. And by the way, I probably still have it in a box somewhere. Like when I everything, I never threw them away. I
Right.
just boxed them. And so anyway, and he says, "This is my daughter." And I can't remember how old you were. I'm guessing that you were probably
16.
a teenager.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to it, and I was going, "Oh my gosh, this is really good!" Because Dad's handing me their
Yes.
daughter's cassette tapes.
Yes.
I'm just like,
It
I
might
wasn't
be
even sure I
okay.
was going to listen to it, but then all of a sudden I
Right.
stuck it in. I was like, "Whoa, this is great!" So yeah, and then I would have seen you at a wedding, which evidently you were
I've done a few weddings.
asked to do a lot of weddings.
Yes.
So, and then again live, when I heard you sing live, I was even more like, oh my gosh, she's had an incredible voice. You sang Amazing Grace.
I
and
did.
It was just,
I did.
I was blown away by your vocals.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
at any rate, I don't know when you might have remembered bumping into me along the way. Our paths crossed down the road after that.
I am not for sure. I'm not sure if it was at church, at the vineyard. It was probably before that. It might have been the wedding. I knew about you because my dad talked about you.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad talked about your church and what you were starting. And so I can't remember for sure if it was that wedding or if it was ultimately later at church.
Right. Well, that's fun. So I feel like I've been a fan of yours for a long time, right?
We've definitely known each other a long time.
Yeah. And so I've followed your career. And so I wanted to kind of dive into that, talk a little bit about your writing career, your performance career.
Sure.
And then talk a little bit about some of your songs, some of the lyrics in the songs, that kind of thing. So I was noticing that there was evidently you put out a solo thing early, like in 2002, called Preface.
I did. Yeah.
Which I don't think I have that.
You know what's funny? You can go on eBay. I actually just had a friend text me today and said, "Hey, do you have any more copies of Preface? Because someone's selling it on eBay for $200.
Oh, wow.
So
If you sign it, it'll be worth more.
Maybe
probably. Yeah. Like, is it a CD or?
It's
was
a
that,
CD.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like a 10 or 11 song CD. That was, early songs that I had written when I was a teenager.
Yeah, so I'm curious, like, would some of those songs I might have heard on the cassette made it to the
Possibly.
Preface deal?
Possibly
Okay.
so. Yes.
All right. So that's been a while. I may have heard of some. I may have listened to some of those.
Yes.
So so you were doing that. You just released that on your own, right?
I did. Yeah.
Just did a local recording here in town somewhere?
Yeah. When I was in high school, I was trying ultimately to be a musician, and that's kind of what I did. I was trying very hard to make music, put it out there, hopefully get enough attention to get a record deal or a development deal. And so I ended up doing that through my very first entertainment attorney in Minneapolis. So I went up to Minneapolis to record that album. Yeah.
And a studio that was up was up there that you recorded in?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
And then that was actually ultimately how I ended up meeting my friend, Michelle Branch, who I later formed the records with.
Right. Before we get to Michelle, I'm curious. So I read somewhere that you started singing at the age of 3.
I did. I have recordings to prove it. Yeah.
I mean, just started coming out?
That's just what I loved. Yeah. I've loved it for as long as I can remember. And started writing, terribly writing, but writing probably when I was 7 or 8.
That's crazy. It seems
crazy.
Like to me. Did you have any, was it just what you loved? Did you have any sense that it was how God made you or anything like that?
I did.
Or just,
I felt it was what I was put on the earth to do.
Wow.
For sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, some people spend a lifetime trying to figure that out.
Yes. I was lucky. You're lucky if you figure it out early on.
I think it is because if you have that kind of clarity at such a young age.
Yes.
It does make, at least aspects of your path and journey a little more clear.
It does.
Right?
It also makes some things more difficult. I remember having teachers and counselors in school who, you'd go in and they'd check in with you. What are you thinking about college? And what are you thinking about what you want to do after school? I'm a musician. I'm going to be a musician. That's all there is to it. And I didn't always get very positive answers about that.
Oh, yeah. Did somebody encourage you other than your parents?
My family and friends were all super, super
all
supportive.
On board.
Yeah, for sure.
None of your teachers?
Yeah, I actually remember my mom calling my guidance counselor in high school to have some not so friendly words with her about how she had discouraged me from following my dream.
That's
so,
hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, good parents.
Yes, very supportive always.
Yeah, so meeting Michelle has been a big part of your life.
Oh, huge part, for sure.
And tell us a little bit about that. And and just for those who don't know, tell the audience who Michelle is and then how you guys met and kind of what sparked from that relationship.
So Michelle Branch is a Grammy Award winning, when I first met her, pop singer. When I first met her, actually, though, it was just before she got her record deal or just around there. We were teenagers. And I had prefaced, as we've talked about, my independent record. And she also had an independent record. And we had websites and we're trying to promote our music and trying to get heard. And we had mutual fans who thought that we sounded alike. And so we started talking that way and just kind of instantly clicked in every way and became buddies. Then shortly after that, she made her first record for Maverick record label.
Who was Maverick under?
Maverick was run by Guy Osiria, but it was owned by Madonna. It was Madonna's imprint label.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I remember.
Yeah. So she put out her first single and she just kind of blew up right away. And it was a whirlwind immediately. And
was this everywhere?
It was everywhere. And then All You Wanted and Goodbye to You. And
yes, several
songs you've probably heard.
Hits, yeah.
Yes.
If you grew up in America.
For sure. So.
And that happened before you guys were touring, right?
Well, we became friends before that. Kind of,
okay.
Or in the midst of that starting to happen. And then when things really started taking off for her quickly, when that happens, your label instantly puts you in just this circus of concerts, interviews. You're basically just going 24/7. And she wanted a friend with her. The road gets lonely. So probably at 1920, I kind of just took off with her. And 19 or 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. kind of just
I thought you were in a previous life,
Yeah.
1920. No, thanks.
maybe you never know.
Yeah. You're back again.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So,
Yeah.
okay. So,
So-
when you were 19 or 20, you start
just
touring with
kind
Michelle.
of hit the road with her. Yeah. At first as just a friend, just to hang out and spend time. And then kind of started singing background for her. Meanwhile, also working on my own stuff still, working on my own record deal. Somewhere along the line there, I got a development deal with Elektra Records. And then ultimately ended up deciding I wanted to spend some time in Nashville and go more the country music route. So yeah, somewhere in the midst of all that, I got offered a deal from an indie record label in Nashville. And literally I was in my car driving to Nashville to sign that deal. And Michelle called and said, stop, don't do it. We've been joking about starting a band for a long time. Let's do it. What do you think? So that was kind of a big crossroads and big decision, but ultimately I turned down the deal and went with Michelle, and we started writing more music and getting ready to make an album.
Awesome. So Michelle's second album was one that you did a lot of background vocals on, right?
I did some background vocals.
What is the name of that album?
Hotel Paper.
Hotel Paper.
Yep.
And you'd already been touring with her by the time you did that album with her. And did your touring take you all over the United States?
All over the U.S. I remember we went to Japan with Michelle when she was touring Hotel Paper. We went to Guam. But I think somewhere in there we went to Paris, but mostly it was U.S.
Mostly U.S. And was she headlining all of her concerts at this pretty quickly?
By that point, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then did you guys team up with other artists? Did you become friends with some other artists in those touring days? Like, did you have openers and...
There were openers, and then, occasionally, a lot of times, she would play, headlining club shows, but then occasionally she would open for someone. I remember one time I sang with her, she was opening for Sheryl Crow. There was like a several gig stint that we did. This was the most interesting by far with the Dixie Chicks.
Okay. And people even kind of equated you a little bit,
right.
didn't they? Not I don't know. Anyway.
People in Nashville, for sure, when the records first started, said that reminds us of the Chicks. But the most interesting part about those shows with the Chicks is it was right when everything had kind of blown up with them, and they were...
Like their political statements and all that, yeah.
And literally there was a show in Dallas where there were bomb squads checking things out before we went on stage.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there's always been some craziness in this United States of ours, right?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you've formed the Wreckers, and this was what year did that album come out? 06?
Let's see. Was it 05 or 06? I think it was 06.
06
that it came out. But we probably started writing and working on it in 04.
Okay.
I would say.
And you co-wrote several of the songs on the record.
Co-wrote several. I wrote a couple by myself. She wrote a couple by herself.
Right.
We did a cover on there, a Patty Griffin song called One More Girl. Patty Griffin was one of our favorite singer-songwriters.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so did you release Leave the Pieces single first?
It was first. Yes.
And did it blow up instantly?
It blew up. Let's see. It was released, I want to say, in maybe March or April of that year. And it went number 1 in August.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was pretty fast and furious.
Lightning bolt, huh?
It was, yeah.
And when did you start touring that? Because the full album wasn't released yet.
We started touring before the album was released.
Okay.
We started opening for other artists. I remember that whole summer, I believe we opened for Rascal Flatts.
Nice.
And then literally every day that we weren't doing a show with Rascal Flatts, we were headlining our own small club shows. So we were playing a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long did you tour the Wreckers album?
Couple of years. Yeah, about 2 full years.
All U.S. stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All U.S. Just about everywhere.
Yeah. So you got nominated for a Grammy for the performance for was it a duet performance for Lead the or I'm not sure.
I think it was
the categories. It
was for country single of the year, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Country single. So you were nominated for the Grammy. Who won it that year?
The Chicks.
Oh, did they?
For their Not Ready to Make Nice.
So did you go to the Grammys in?
Did we? I don't know. We couldn't go.
Okay.
Because we were on the road. There wasn't time in our schedule.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
That's such.
We did the Country Music Award show rounds,
Okay.
but we weren't able to go to the Grammys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's such an honor to get nominated, and
Yes.
then this album went gold.
Yes, it did.
That's amazing.
It did. Yeah, and actually, it's continued selling. It's kind of amazing how much it just caught on and hung on, because now it's probably sold closer to platinum at this point. Yeah,
That's fun.
it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So touring, so what's the biggest audience you think you have performed in front of?
Oh boy. That's hard to say. I mean, we did a lot of arena shows opening for people. You know, I mentioned Rascal Flatts. We opened for Keith Urban for a while.
So you're talking 20,000 type settings.
Yeah. Although we did, I don't know if this counts, but we did with Santana play a song at an NFL opening night thing at the Patriots Stadium. So there were probably more people there.
Wasn't that a Thanksgiving? Was it
Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving? I can't remember.
I don't think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a September thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Yeah. So lots of success, like pretty fast.
Very fast.
I mean, it wasn't like you were playing little dinky, smoky clubs all over the United States for 10 years or something.
Definitely
like that.
not. It was very fast and a little head spinning.
So with such a huge success on your first Wreckers album, obviously I'm sure the big question, and I'm sure you've explained it many times, but why did you decide to go solo at that point?
Yeah. I think the short answer is that relationships are complicated, and especially relationships between young people. We were young. We were kids. We were in our early 20s. And I think that we both wanted the Wreckers. We both loved the Wreckers, but I think we both also still had other things that we wanted to do. And the Wreckers blew up so big, so fast. And, everyone in your orbit is kind of just wanting that train to continue going. Sometimes for good reasons and sometimes for not so good reasons. So I think ultimately we were probably too young and immature to focus on our relationship, personal and music, and kind of shut out the noise around us to stay together at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a very productive co-writing.
Very productive. And
up to that.
For sure, the best musical relationship I've ever had.
Is that right?
Yeah. We had very much just a sisterly type of relationship, personally and professionally. We just, singing together always just felt very natural. Writing together always felt very natural. We were just kind of on the same page. It just was one of those things that just clicked and worked. So, yeah.
Well,
it's an experience I treasure, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun to watch it from a distance.
Yes.
So rooting for the hometown gal. Right?
Yes, thank you.
Then you decided to go solo, and you did your solo album called "A Woman Needs," right? And
I did.
You wrote most of these songs yourself.
I did.
Maybe one or
Wrote
two
and co-wrote.
co-writes here and there.
Yes.
Yeah. So you came out with that in what, 08? Is that 08?
Was it 08? Yes. Or the single. Well, yeah. Yeah, maybe
Was your
towards the
first
end of
single
08.
released
First
Boy Like
single
Me?
was in 08.
Was that Boy Like Me?
It was.
Okay. And was that the biggest hit off of
It
your
was.
solo album,
It was.
Boy Like
I think
Me?
it got to 30 on the charts.
Yeah.
Yes. There was definitely a lot of support behind it, but country music, and especially being a female in country music, you're sort of held to a little bit of a different standard. And there were a lot of country radio stations that refused to play my first single because it talked about making love and drinking till the sun comes up.
Really?
Yes. Now, if you
Wow.
listen to country radio, you might hear that men sing about those things quite frequently, but apparently being a female singing about those things is not so
on.
great.
In 08? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yes. So I feel like that's why it kind of topped out at 30.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. Double standards everywhere, huh?
For sure. For sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What label was this album on?
Warner Brothers.
Okay. So you signed with Warner Brothers.
As the Wreckers, we signed with Maverick. But then when everybody realized we were kind of going the Nashville country music route, Warner Nashville ended up kind of taking over.
Okay. Yeah. So when you go in, and I always forget, like in music, the producer, is that the person that kind of does the sound engineering? Is that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Producers and directors and all these
It's kind of
words
the symphony director. You know, what if you play this part here, and what if
Did you find a good relationship with a producer?
for my solo album?
Uh-huh.
Yes, for sure. My husband at the time, one of his best friends, his name is Jerry Flowers. Jerry is an amazing singer and songwriter in his own right. He's spent much of his career touring with Keith Urban as his bassist.
Okay.
But he is just an all-around unbelievably talented guy. And he was trying to kind of, dip his toes in the producing world. And so I ended up co-writing a lot of stuff with him and asked him to produce it. And it was a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you toured this album, right?
I did.
Okay.
Not as extensively as the Wreckers, but for sure I did.
And that was a U.S. tour?
Yes.
Did you tour it for 1 or 2 years, something like that?
I would say off and on for a year.
Okay.
Long enough to put out a second single. And then that's where things got sort of complicated in my life. The whole record label end of things was difficult. Right about the time they were putting out my second single, the head of Warner Nashville left and someone new came in. And when that happened, everything just kind of froze, and all the momentum that I'd been building for months and months and months with my first single just kind of dropped. And yeah, I had, by that point, I just gotten to a very frustrated point with my label, with, that world as a whole, and just kind of was feeling the need to step back and step out of it for a while.
And
so
this was what, 2010, something like that?
Around there, yeah.
Okay.
So I just kind of made the decision to step back from recording, touring, all that, and just wanted to kind of go and write songs and possibly, try to write songs for other people and just do something different for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On this album, A Woman Needs, you had Vince Gill popped on.
I did.
One of the songs.
Yes.
Did you had that been somebody you'd met and specifically wanted him to?
No, I was just a huge Vince fan. He's one of the most incredible country male vocalists of all time. I just love his voice. And so we had just asked to see if he would. We thought he would sound good on that song. And he said yes. Yeah.
Homemade Love.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that song.
And he's just a genuine, wonderful man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Did you have, were there, after this solo album released, was there just like that one digital release after, like there wasn't a second album, right? After
just A Woman Needs, that album was
Okay.
the only solo one.
So
Yeah.
so there was, none of your other songs have been released since then.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I ended up taking a
So
big, long hiatus.
Yeah. So you're probably sitting on a lot of songs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of songs for sure.
So I want to ask you a few questions about the creative process
Yes.
and maybe some of the songs in particular that you have written or co-written on, that kind of thing. I'm curious, what, so you say you started writing when you're 8. Okay.
I did.
So
not well, mind you, but yeah.
No, so I'm curious. The creative process for me is an interesting thing, and I'm curious what goes into your best creative moments. What and you might think about the environment that you write in, how ideas come to your mind, how they get translated into both lyrics and music and all, just the creative process. How does that work for you? Has it changed over time?
It's definitely changed for sure. When I was younger, I really don't know where it came from. Honestly, that's probably something that I would attribute to, for me, being a God thing. It just, it would just come to me. So, lyrics would just come to me. There were a lot of songs, Tennessee, Cigarettes, those songs that I wrote by myself on the Records album. I probably wrote those in 20 or 30 minutes. And it's just lightning in a bottle type thing. And it's really, really hard to explain.
Yeah. And so when you say a song comes to you in 20 or 30 minutes, does it matter? Can that happen anywhere? Like, are you in your bedroom? Are you in your house? Are you outside somewhere? Are you in a studio space writing?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're writing by yourself, for me, it's easier to just, be in a quiet, chill, peaceful space. But, one of the big things in Nashville is co-writing. That's just, part of that whole community. And, they'll have 2, 3, 4, 5 people in a room working on a song together. And, when you go into that type of setting, you might bring in, oh, here I wrote a verse, or here's a melody, and, see if you can expand on it. But, yeah, for me, I don't know. I don't know exactly how it comes. I know that I've always been a deep thinking, deep feeling person. And music, especially when I was younger, was the easiest way for me to express myself and all those big thoughts and feelings. And yeah, it just kind of started pouring out at a certain point.
So you definitely feel like it comes from a spiritual place in you.
For sure.
And there's a sense of this is what you're made for.
For sure.
Kind of
it feels like God gave me these tools, and I'm, I use them as best I can.
So Tennessee is interesting to me because of the self-doubt in that song. Maybe I was too selfish, and how, in any relationship, I mean, even in one that doesn't break up, but how it goes through rough spots.
Right.
Self-doubt it's
huge.
It's a big one, isn't it?
It's huge. Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious, do you process, like if you go through a rough patch in a relationship, like, let's just say with anybody, okay, do you tend to blame the other person first or blame yourself first?
Now, I would say it's much easier for me to blame myself. When I was younger, I would say it was a lot easier to blame other people. But I think being able to really take a good hard look at yourself is a very positive thing. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you can only do so much to affect what the other person ultimately feels, wants, does. But if you're willing to take responsibility for your issues, it's a lot easier to come together with someone else.
It's such a tricky thing.
It is. It is. It is. It's not always easy.
Yeah. So I've my audience knows I've been in recovery and all this kind of
Yes.
stuff. And I've noticed in the recovery world that a lot of people, like I didn't have a long drinking career,
Right.
addiction career, any of that kind of, it hit me pretty fast and furious.
Yes.
Late in life, right?
Yes.
It took me down fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that my observation is that a lot of people who have had long, extended addiction careers, blaming others is huge.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so then a part of the healing process is like, this phrase that they have is like taking care of your side of the street.
Yes.
Which is the only thing you really have responsibility over, right?
Right.
You can't control the other person. You can't, so blame, it doesn't get you very far relationally, right?
Right.
My deal with, I tend to overblame. Like I tend to move into shame.
Yes.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So like I will immediately go inward and then immediately reflect. So anything that's self-doubt, like Tennessee,
Right.
I latch onto that because oh God, I've been there.
Yes, for sure.
And
I'm also really good at writing sad songs. Like I'll tell you, being in a happy place in life is really not good for me as far as songwriting
I thought about
goes.
tallying up which ones are breakups and which ones are looking forward to love.
Most of them are sad.
Yeah. I was interested, a couple of metaphors that you play with in a few different places. Trains and dirt roads.
Who doesn't love a train? Dirt roads. That's just a country music thing right there.
Yeah. And I'm a gravel bike rider.
Yeah.
So I ride out all these gravel roads between Weston and
Yes.
Lathrop and all north of Smithville and get out there on country.
In sticks.
Yeah. Get lost a little bit,
Yep. It's nice.
But like My Oh My comes up, the change component to that kind of reminded me of what was the old, was it Joni Mitchell's Park?
Yes.
That deal
Deal
of
a taxi. Yep. Oh, Joni.
yeah. So, but the dirt road turned into a parking lot
Right.
and whatever stores
Sonic
it
and
was, the Sonic and all the different stores. But that idea of change, and I wondered because like you grew up in what we call the Northland in Kansas City. People be listening to us that aren't from Kansas City.
Yes.
But we grew up in the Northland,
Yes.
right? And just in your lifetime, you've watched a lot of dirt roads turn into paved roads. You've watched a lot of fields turn into parking lots and
Absolutely.
development, right?
Absolutely.
I
The house I grew up in, when my parents bought that land and built our house, there was nothing. It was all farmland. It was all cattle. And now there's, schools and housing developments and just everything right around it.
So I live I sold this house after I went through my divorce, but I lived in Staley Hills.
Yes.
Which is literally
one of those developments.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But I know where you grew up there.
Yeah.
And such a great spot.
It is.
And it still feels a little country as soon as you hit that road,
It does. Yeah. There's enough plots of land there that they've kind of kept that road at least with the country feeling.
I mean, Staley High School went in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
It blew up in this area.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
I used to be able to ride my bike across Cookingham. Sorry, audience, for running into a local reference here. But now there's times at 5:00 at night where the traffic is so bad on 291 Cookingham there in the Northland. I have to wait 10 minutes to get across the street.
I bet.
It's just
it's
crazy.
It is.
So stand still, look pretty.
Yeah. Yep. That was probably a way for Michelle and I to give a little bit of a finger at the music industry in general. As we talked about with the whole country music thing, it's really not, misogyny is sort of entertainment industry wide. And that's sort of the place where that song was born from.
I was curious because it has one of the elements in it that struck me was the external image versus the true self.
Right.
And so you guys were writing this as people who were a little bit pissed off
Yeah.
at sort of this mold
Right.
that you were trying to be fit into.
Yes.
Is that
There's definitely a mold for sure.
A good way to say it?
Yeah.
And maybe that mold's not you.
Right.
And then how long
But you got to fit in it.
Yeah, but then how long do you play that role until you feel...
Where you completely fall apart?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we did, so, you know.
You understand my interest in this question.
I do, for sure.
So here I am, Pastor Fred, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And
I mean, you can be...
All pastors are super godly people.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden...
Yeah. But just as humans, you know, we can, like the song says, sort of be completely falling apart inside. But, you know, we show a different face to the world.
Yeah. That's a challenging one. I'm curious, when you were touring, do you feel like... Did you get energy from performing?
I did. Yeah.
So you liked
performing live was definitely
you got energy
my
from
favorite
that.
part for sure.
Okay, cool. So obviously,
which is weird because I'm actually kind of a introvert.
That's what I was wondering.
And a little shy. And I definitely get like crazy stage fright. So yeah, it's weird that I liked being on stage so much.
So I would get nervous before every time I spoke. And so I can
relate.
And I felt I was a shy kid growing up, fairly introverted. And then now I have this, I'm always in the public eye, always in the public eye, always in the public eye. Not the kind of audiences that you were playing to, but
still
several thousand people at time, you know, toward the end. And it had a wear and tear on me.
Yeah, it does.
But once I started talking, it felt like something else took over.
Yeah, absolutely. I can completely relate.
Yeah, I wondered.
Sure.
It's like all of a sudden, boom, you hit a zone or something.
Yeah,
and
I would feel like I was going to completely throw up and not be able to breathe before I went on stage. And then I was just fine.
And then do you, like adrenaline?
Yeah, I think adrenaline kind of takes over a little bit.
Yeah, but then afterwards.
And then you start just connecting with people and you just kind of settle into the moment.
Can you think of like one of the more magical moments that you had in a big audience performing that you just felt like maybe the whole moment was a little bit transcendent or something like that?
One of my favorite shows that I can remember, just since we're talking about Kansas City, my very first headlining record show here in Kansas City after Leave the Pieces had kind of blown up, and get out on stage, and, you know, it's kind of an exhilarating moment of, here I am performing in my hometown, in front of people who maybe doubted me, who didn't think I was ever going to make it to this point. You know, it's a little bit of that moment. But then, like, to look out and see all these faces that I hadn't seen in years, people I grew up with, people I went to school with, the love and the smiles and the support there in that room was just, it was kind of a next level type show.
Cool. I like that. All right. I like the line in "A Woman Needs." That's the title song to the album.
It's my daughter's favorite song of mine right now.
Oh, is it really?
It is. She's obsessed with it.
Tell everybody how old your daughter is.
She is 2.
2?
2 going on 12. Yeah.
That's her favorite.
It is right
Very
now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Does she sing it?
She does.
She's singing it too.
At 2. She's not great at speaking yet, but she's pretty darn good at singing.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So you started singing at 3. She started at 2.
I know. I'm in trouble. I will be a stage mom.
Yeah. This phrase, she can take the road she's never known. And a woman needs to be able to take the road she's never known.
Yes.
I love that phrase.
It's an important thing for anybody to, you know, have the courage to explore things in their lives that, you know, speak to them.
Mm-hmm. It can be scary.
It can be very scary. Yeah. And I feel like probably a lot of people don't go for things that they want because they are scared. But yeah, if you can take those risks and find that courage, the payoff can be really huge.
That's a part of what Spirituality Adventures is about, and it feels very scary to me because it's different.
It's new.
And I'm much older than I used to be. When you're younger, the risks feel like more fun. I think.
Do. They do for sure.
Now I know what it feels like to crash and burn.
Yes.
It's like, I don't have too many of these in me, you know?
Right. Hey, makes you stronger.
Right. Lonely Anywhere.
That is one I actually did not write.
Oh, really? I was thinking you wrote that one.
No, that was, Liz Rose and
Okay.
who else?
You didn't contribute to it?
I did not. Okay. I just sang
performed
it, but I love it.
All right. Good song.
Yes.
Follow That Train. That's the train image.
Yes.
And you have that a couple of different places and, in the songs you've written.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if there's a specific reason I kept coming back to that, or if
have you ridden trains a lot? I'm just curious. Or just
I haven't ridden a lot of trains really, but who doesn't love the sound of a lonesome whistle blowing?
Well, it's a lot. It can take you somewhere new.
It can,
but it can also
take you back home.
But it can also mean you're leaving something behind too.
Yes.
So it
a lot of
works.
A lot of roads there.
Yeah. So, but I'll follow that train anywhere, and then Good Enough for Me is anywhere you are. Those are some of your really big, kind of like all in love songs, right?
Yes. Yeah, which I had some outside help from. Good Enough for Me is actually a Carrie Underwood co-write that was meant for one of her albums that she didn't end up recording.
Interesting.
And I ended up recording it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. I am curious as to what music you listen to that inspires you. I
listen to truly a little bit of everything. Yeah, it kind of just depends on the day. I'm like a big pop music person. Like I just love a really good hooky melody. I love 90s music because that's probably when my love of music just sort of exploded and became, an even bigger thing. I love older country music. I don't love where country music has headed these days. But I love older country music. I love classic rock. I love blues. I love, I truly kind of listen to everything.
Okay.
I also really, really get into very kind of folky singer-songwriter stuff. That's kind of my jam because, that's what I do. I sit with a guitar and write. Is
there one of those groups that come to mind or individuals?
Patty Griffin is by far like my number one in that genre. Yeah. She's amazing.
What 90s stuff?
Oh man. Well, lately I just pull up my 90s playlist on Spotify and listen to whatever, but
we all can cheat that way.
Like
right?
Jewel and Alanis Morissette were really big for me in the 90s. Nirvana, all that stuff. Just
right. Yeah, that's good music.
It is. It's great music.
It's so funny because the 80s for me, I was a 70s prog rock kid. So I was into Kansas and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes and REO Speedwagon, just,
love
name all that stuff. And and then when the 80s
stuff.
and when the 80s hit, I never got on board with the hairband stuff.
Yeah, the 80s is where you kind of lose me for a minute. There's some really good stuff.
But I started listening to Sunday Bloody Sunday, U2's first album, and I started listening to REM. I started listening to some of the, like Echo and the Bunnymen, and just some of this.
There's some good stuff in there.
Some, I don't know if it's what you'd call indie punk or something like that.
Right.
I don't know. But so there was some stuff I ended up finding. But when 90s hit, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I loved the grunge scene. I loved that Alanis Morissette album, and which kind of makes me wonder, like, so you write about so much love and breakup, right?
Yes.
And then you're and like I remember when Alanis Morissette's album came out, you know,
Just
The Jagged Little Pill,
one of the best albums ever.
She was like what?
She was probably her early 20s. Then at that point,
you know, the rawness.
Oh yeah.
You're like, have you really gone through this much bad shit? You know,
you can believe me. It's possible. Yeah, for sure.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, that's good music. I like a big, broad
Me too.
bunch of music too. So how do you get replenished? What do you do to have fun, and what are some of your just like hobbies and stuff?
Have we been having fun in the last year?
I'm curious.
I'm sure that we've been having much
COVID
fun. Last year. Woo! I have spent a lot of time in my house with my daughter the last year. Truly, yeah. I haven't really been doing fun things, but I'm sure fun things will happen again.
What's your daughter's favorite things?
Her favorite things, well, music is like super at the top of her list. Yeah. She also loves, like, she's trying to actually, I think, like tumble and do gymnastics, and she's constantly doing dangerous things that, you know, make me want to pull my hair out, but it's also really cute. So I'm sure gymnastics is in her future. She also loves to dance. So yeah, she's a bit of a ham.
Cool. She's performing.
She is.
Wow. I think some of that stuff comes early like that.
I think it does.
And it's like you don't have to teach them certain things, right?
No, she definitely just sort of came out that way.
Yeah. Well, help everybody know, because some of your fans are going to be tuning in here. And I'm sure you get asked 1,000 times, so what's next? What's on the horizon? Are you writing? If you are writing, what does that look like? All that kind of stuff.
I am writing. I'm kind of playing around, so I don't know exactly what shape it's taking yet, but I will say that Michelle and I have sort of been plotting for a potential Wreckers return. So we'll see.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to make a lot of people excited.
It seems like it. It seems like we've had pretty good reaction so far.
That's cool.
It's awesome.
Well, fun. So how do you guys write together? Do you have to get in the same space? Do you
I'm
share
sure
lyrics?
we will. We've not yet. We've just sort of in the preliminary stages of talking about it. She's finishing up solo music, and she also has a 2-year-old. So we're we're both
You both have 2-year-olds?
Yes, her son. She has a 14-year-old daughter. And then her son is 2. Her son was born exactly 3 months before my daughter.
So you're gonna be
Busy.
connected for a while.
Yeah.
That's probably a lifelong
for sure
friendship thing. Well, that's cool. Well, I would love to have you play one of your songs for us.
I would love to do that.
All right. Let's do it.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, Jessica, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for bringing your guitar.
Yes.
And I see you brought your trusty Gibson.
I did.
All right.
J45.
There you go. What song are you going to do?
I am going to play Tennessee, which was a Wrecker song, one that I wrote and one that's close to my heart.
I love this song.
Thank you.
Thank you for playing it.
Thank you. I never had all the answers. I never had enough time. But I sure had all the reasons why you weren't what I wanted to find. I never laid all my cards out. Just wanted to play. And now I'm grown and alone and wishing I was with you tonight. 'Cause I can guarantee things are sweeter in Tennessee. These days everything is all business, never in one place for too long. And there's no lack of arms around me, but I still wonder if somewhere I went wrong. Maybe I was much too selfish, but baby, you're still on my mind. And now I'm grown and alone and wishing I was with you tonight. 'Cause I can guarantee things are sweeter in Tennessee. In Tennessee. And I'd wish on every star in the southern sky for that man in our life. If I did not think that, oh, maybe I was much too selfish, but baby, you're still on my mind. And now I'm grown and alone and wishing I was with you tonight. 'Cause I can guarantee things are sweeter in Tennessee. Yes, I can guarantee things are sweeter in Tennessee.
Yay. All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Beautiful song.
Thank you.
Yeah, that it draws your heart into a longing for all these things.
Yes.
Hope, love, a place to feel yourself. I mean, there's so many
sure.
components to that. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Thanks, everybody, for joining us at Spirituality Adventures. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Hobbies Media Production.